I'm here for a book review, and normally I review history books that I'm reading in my grad school classes, but today this is very indicative of how my life is changing. I've got 4 baby books slash kind of like new mommy books, pregnancy book type things that I have been reading. Right now I am 7 months pregnant. I'm 29 weeks, so I'm kind of coming to the end here, so I feel like there's a few things that I better know before this baby comes. But when I first got pregnant, I didn't want to like just inundate myself with information and like stress myself out, but I'm a reader, I'm a researcher, I'm a fast reader, so I figured I could get a couple of books and just kind of get the basics. These ones are pretty common, I think like most people read these. So if you are newly pregnant and you are kind of scouring Amazon trying to think of which books might be good to get, these are all pretty good. So the first one is a classic, I think. This is What to Expect When You're Expecting. When you first get pregnant, you almost don't even think so much about the baby as just about pregnancy, because you can't see any physical changes in your body. You don't like feel the baby kicking or anything. You just feel sick and you feel tired and you don't know what is happening to your body. So it's nice to have just something that you can read through that gives you kind of a week by week explanation of what's happening in your body. And almost everything, even that I was just like, oh, I must be the only one that's experiencing this, there's always somebody else that is, or any kind of like weird question that I thought I had. Oh, here's like something about milk-free mom. Like, I don't eat dairy. That's not real common, but somebody asked, I can't tolerate milk and drinking 4 cups a day would make me uncomfortable. But don't babies need milk? And the answer is you just need calcium, so I just take calcium pills. So yeah, this just kind of gives you a bunch of little tips and just explanations of what's happening in your body. I actually haven't finished it yet because I'm just on like the 7th month or whatever. It has a chapter for dads. It has a chapter on like if you get sick, because that is different. If you're pregnant, you can't really take a lot of medications. If you have a chronic condition, that would be something important to know. Complications with pregnancy. What else? At this point, I'm a little bit bored with this book because I'm kind of like, I got pregnancy down, like pregnancies, whatever. I'm more concerned about like learning about babies and how to take care of this baby that's about to be here. But at the beginning, this is fairly reassuring. The next book I had recommended to me by a couple people. So this one is The Happiest Baby on the Block by Harvey Karp. And I actually really liked this one too. It's about how to get babies to sleep well and like how to help calm them. And so this doctor believes in the 5 S's, which are swaddling, side position, shushing, sucking, and swinging. Okay. So his premise is kind of that there's really a 4th trimester, that babies are not really ready to be born after 9 months, that the first 3 months of their life are just kind of adjusting to being out of your womb, but they're still really, really helpless. Like when cows are born or horses are born, they just walk around like right away. I've seen it happen because I used to live on a ranch, but human babies can't do that. And he also starts off by like mentioning, I don't know, every single other parenting and like feeding strategy that there ever was and like debunking them. So I think the beginning is like really boring actually. Just kind of skim the beginning and then read about the 5 S's, and it does actually make a lot of sense. At the moment, my baby has 24-hour snuggling from my body. He can eat whenever he wants. He gets a lot of movement. He gets a lot of sound. And so sometimes it's just a pretty harsh switch, when they are born, and then all of a sudden we put them in like a dark room and it's really quiet and they're just like open to the world. So it does make sense that like swaddling them would help them feel more secure. They have that reflex where they throw their hands back in the air and they feel like they're falling, and it kind of freaks them out, and they're not really capable of like soothing themselves yet when they're super, super little. And so you do really have to help them. You have to, give them whatever they need so that they feel secure and so that, they've got all the comforts that they need. I mean, we as adults have a lot of things that comfort us, like you know, when we go to bed, we want a mattress and a blanket and a pillow, sometimes a really specific pillow. So there are certain things that soothe us as adults as well. It's just a human thing, not so much a baby thing. I'm glad I have like the strategies in this book. It gives you 5 things that you can kind of use in conjunction with each other, or use a combination of just a couple. And, you know, at least I have like some strategies at my fingertips, rather than just like, why is this baby crying? I don't know what to do with him. What does he want? That's what I might do. It was nice to just read through the whole thing so that I know what information is in there, and then I can go back to it later and like pick out certain things. The next book that I read was On Becoming Baby Wise by, I don't know, 2 guys. Giving Your Infant the Gift of Nighttime Sleep. Okay, what is with the graphics on all these books? I checked the publishing date and it was like 2015, right? Yeah, 2012. This is the 5th edition. Like, you still went with, you know, the little shadow letters that you learned how to do in like text boxes in 5th grade computer class or whatever. Like, I don't understand what it is with all these baby books and like the really primitive graphic design on the covers, but whatever. They have this thing called parent-directed feeding, so they keep talking about like the PDF baby does this, the PDF baby does that. So just parent-directed feeding. Because I guess at the beginning you're just like, okay, if they cry, should I feed them right now? Should I wait until they cry to feed them? Should I just like constantly be feeding them? What should I do? So they give you a lot of like example schedules of feeding, and at the beginning you really do have to feed them, you know, like every 2 to 3 hours. So you are going to be up in the middle of the night for at least the first couple of weeks, and eventually you can kind of like spread out their feedings. But I like that this gives you like sample schedules just so that you can picture it. Because like for me and my husband, like we don't even know how to picture it, you know? Like, when do you feed? What should this look like? What is our day gonna look like? They also give you just a lot of like troubleshooting techniques. Like, gosh, one thing was like, I guess it's kind of common for a baby to get tourniquet syndrome, which they make all of these things sound super dramatic, but if they're kind of crawling around on the ground, sometimes just like a single like carpet fiber, although we don't have carpets, this might not happen to mine, but a carpet fiber or like a piece of your hair could accidentally get like wrapped around their toe, and they can't reach down to their toe and like brush it away. And so, you know, a lot of times their feet are covered most of the day by either like little socks or their little swaddling blanket or something. And so you might not notice, and they're like crying and crying because their toe hurts. And I'm like, oh, I never would have thought to check that. So there's just quite a few lists in here of just random things you can check. Like, you know, if they are not hungry and their diaper is clean and, you know, you've done everything for them, but they're still crying, what might be the cause? Again, this is another one where I'm glad I like read through the whole thing just to get an overview, but now I'm going to need to go back and look at more specific details later. They actually start the book with the idea that you and the dad, or you and whoever is raising your baby, like, you are their whole entire world. And so you need to make sure that your relationship is good. If that's the only thing your baby can experience right at the beginning, you need to make sure that they feel secure, like that your home is secure, that you're not fighting and you're not like causing tension. Like, you know, they say that babies will pick up on that type of stuff. So good little reminders, good little lists, good, you know, checklists for what might be irritating your baby if they are crying. And yeah, I recommend this one. I just really think they should update these covers. All of them, really. All these covers are lacking. Okay, this one was my favorite. I think I actually read it first, but developmentally, like in the life of your baby, this one's gonna be a little bit later. So this one's called Bringing Up Bebe. I think I mentioned it in like a favorites video or something. It's by Pamela Druckerman, and it's more of a memoir style of a book. The other ones are written like by doctors, but this one is just written by a journalist actually, who raised her second baby in France and just noticed that like she did things really, really differently than all the mothers in France, but that they seemed to be like a lot calmer than her. Their kids were better behaved than hers. They ate well, they didn't throw fits, and she was like, okay, what am I doing wrong here? So there are some chapters on babies in here, but it goes into more like toddlers as well. Almost all of the parenting techniques that she talks about and just kind of the parenting philosophies are basically exactly what my husband and I talk about all the time. So it was nice to have a little like confirmation of that. Just a few examples, stuff like kids in France aren't bribed by food. Like parents don't walk around with goldfish in their purse to bribe their kid to be good in the grocery store. Kids have to be more patient, and they eat at pretty specific times, and they eat what adults eat. They also tend to have to be more patient in general. Now this doesn't necessarily apply to like infants. Like if an infant is crying, of course they're gonna go to their little baby and pick them up and figure out what's wrong. But once their babies are a little bit older, they just kind of hesitate. Like if their baby is crying, they just listen and see, okay, can they like put themselves back to sleep, or do they just like kind of startle themselves and now they'll be okay? Or do I need to go pick them up? And so they always just kind of wait and observe. They're very polite to their kids, but they don't talk to them like babies. And they give their kids a lot of responsibility, it seems like. So even when they're like 3 years old, French kids are baking simple cakes. In France, the goal is just to kind of teach kids to be more independent and not do everything for them. You know, you don't always have to let your kids be the center of attention. American parents tend to do this a lot. They don't want to like squash their kids' creativity. So, you know, if the kid like barges into the room and wants to like put on a performance while adults are talking, you know, you can tell them like, right now we're talking, but we'll come get you when we're ready, and then you can do your performance for us. But they can't like dictate your whole schedule and like have more power than the adults. Like, you're the kid. This is adult time, so you know, you go to bed when it's your bedtime because now adults need their time, or you play in your room with the other little kids while the adults talk. And you know, we kind of have these separate worlds, but they, you know, they do interact. But sometimes you have kid things and we have adult things. So it just felt nice to be reassured that there's a whole country of people that believe the same thing that me and my husband do. And I'm French. I wasn't born there, but my maiden name is Duvernay, so I always look for like French advice about things because I'm like, I just feel like this just matches who I am. Oh, and bonus book. I didn't even know he was reading this, but my husband said he's been reading this one. I haven't read a word of it, but this is just called Baby Day by Day. And so it just literally has 365 days of like what you should be doing with your baby, which is pretty cool. A girl at my job, she used this with her last baby, and then she just handed it off to me and said that it was really helpful. Again, I have not read it, but my husband said that it was really useful. I've been kind of hogging all the other books, and so he started reading this one. And it's nice just to have your husband kind of on the same page. Like, I think he kind of didn't believe me when I told him that at the beginning, like, your baby does eat like every 2 to 3 hours. And then he told me the other day, he was like, oh yeah, I was reading that book. They really do. You have to wake them up when they're newborns and feed them. Like, you don't get to sleep through the night for quite a while. Like, I know. I was trying to tell you that. It is going to be such a huge adjustment. Oh my gosh, I can't even, I can like picture it, but then also I'm just like, I'm sure that even the things that I'm picturing are just gonna go out the window as soon as the baby gets here. Our life is just gonna be so different. We've been married for almost 6 years. It'll be like 6 years when the baby comes. So to have been so independent for a pretty long time and then have a baby coming in is just gonna be so different, but I'm so excited. Okay, now because I'm an English teacher, I took all of my sources and I wrote down the major themes that I learned from these 4 books that I read. So I just thought I would give you my list in summary. The first one, try to maintain your sleep and sanity so you can be a good mom. And I know this is going to be really, really hard and so much easier said than done, but it does kind of scare me to get really sleep deprived. I don't do well with little sleep. Like, I need my sleep even without a baby around. I get really cranky. I kind of make bad decisions. Like, I'm one of those people that, like, you know how they say that, like, it's similar to being drunk when you don't get enough sleep. Like, when I pull all-nighters for papers and stuff like that, it's not good. So I am a little bit concerned about that. I need to find ways to get sleep or caffeine or something, because I just want to be capable of being the best mom that I can. So need to figure that out. The good thing is that I fall asleep like that. Like, if I need to take a quick nap, I'll definitely be able to do it. I mean, even unless something huge changes. Like, people say that in pregnancy it's hard to sleep, but I haven't had any trouble falling asleep, even with my big belly and everything. Like, I can sleep like a rock forever. So hoping that that will extend into being a new mom, but that I'll also be able to wake up as soon as my baby needs me. Okay, the second thing, maintain your marriage, because you and dad are your baby's world. My husband and I do have a super strong marriage. We rarely ever argue or fight about anything, and he's been so supportive of me through the pregnancy, and he's so excited for the baby that I think we're gonna be okay in this department. But I just also wanna, like, keep that in the front of my mind that you know, I think as the mom, you probably start kind of ignoring your husband, because you're like, oh my gosh, baby, I have to keep this thing alive. My boobs are what feeds it. My body is what takes care of it. Ugh. And so, you know, I don't want to, like, lose sight of, like, oh yeah, my husband's there too. The next one, you can't spoil a newborn. My baby's due right at the beginning of summer vacation, and I don't have anywhere that I have to be. I don't have to go to work. I don't have any responsibilities besides my son. So I'm so excited for that. I don't even know what that's like, but I just want to hold him as much as possible, carry him around as much as possible, snuggle him and kiss him as much as possible, and just, you know, get that attachment bond as strong as I possibly can over the summer before I go back to work. And I'll be sad. The next one, consider the 4th trimester when trying to soothe a newborn, like when they're in those first 3 months. Like, think about where they just were for the last 9 months. So maybe they do need to feel a little bit snug. Maybe they do need a little bit of vibration. Maybe they do need to suck on something. Maybe they do need, like, some loud sounds. And so I'm just trying to keep that in mind, that those are probably soothing things when they're really little. Don't shield them from all crying. It's not a terrible thing to cry. Like, that's the way that they communicate, and they kind of can start to figure out ways to soothe themselves even. I forget which book it was now, but I guess when you get them to sleep, maybe, you know, you've, like, kind of bounced them to sleep and fed them and all that stuff, and then you put them in their crib, I guess it's a good idea to, like, wiggle their foot and wake them up a little bit so that they can kind of be awake and then put themselves back to sleep, and realize that if they get startled in the middle of the night because of a noise or something, that they can put themselves back to sleep. So thought that was smart advice. I just wrote down, schedules are awesome, but they shift as the baby grows. So as much as you can stay on a schedule, that's great, but you know, life is going to probably throw things off a little bit, and you have to remember to keep adjusting them as the baby gets bigger. I also just wrote down, it seems like in all of these books there was a common theme that there's, like, a 3-month milestone. In France, that's when babies start, like, doing their nights, where they sleep through the whole night. You know, that'd be like the end of the 4th trimester. So in all of them, they kind of talked about, like, this developmental transition after about 3 months. And so for me, I don't really want to go back to work until after 3 months, or I don't want to put him in daycare or anything like that until at least 3 months. Like, that just seems like this developmental stage where he needs me, he needs constant attention and constant care, at least until that point. I wish I could do it for longer, but, you know, we need money. So I still haven't totally figured out, like, my work schedule and stuff. I only get 10 weeks off for a summer vacation, but I want to be with him for more like 12, and then if he's late, you know, then maybe that's only like 9. So I might take a little bit of time right at the beginning of the school year. Haven't exactly decided, but I just feel like that 3-month milestone is important. Ooh, okay, this is something I'm also kind of concerned about. Don't let them fall asleep on your bed or the couch or a chair or anything. And again, like I said, I can fall asleep really easily. And so I'm afraid of what that might mean for my baby. Like if I'm feeding and sitting on the couch, I don't want my baby to fall asleep on the couch. We are not gonna let the baby in our bed. Again, because I'm such a hard sleeper. Like there's no way that's a good idea. I'm gonna need my husband's help with this, but I want my baby to sleep in that little like co-sleeper thing. That's what we've registered for. We haven't even gotten a crib or anything yet. We just have a 1-bedroom apartment and the baby's gonna be with us in our room. So we haven't actually really bought anything because we don't want too much clutter. We're just gonna kind of buy things as we need them and kind of transition them out. But anyway, I want my baby to sleep in his own space and be on his back and, you know, just lessen the chance of SIDS. And I don't want him falling asleep around anything that could block his airway or anything like that. The next thing I wrote down is just that babies need predictability. Like they need to know. I think that like if they do cry because they're hungry, you are gonna feed them. If you know, it's like sun starts coming through the window, that's the time when you wake up and you give them food. And like I just want to keep them on a fairly decent schedule. Even like as my kids get older, I want to keep them on a pretty consistent schedule, because even as an adult I need that. When I don't have a schedule for the day, when it's vacation or something, I really don't get anything done, and I don't end up feeling great about it either. It's kind of nice when I have to be at work at a certain time and I get off at a certain time and I have lunch at a certain time. Keeps me healthy and productive and happy. So I know my kids need a schedule too. The last thing I wrote down was that millions of moms have done this. Like I always tell myself that people have done this for thousands and thousands of years. Moms have figured this out over the generations, but in one of the books it pointed out that most moms though have never done it alone. Like that's a very, very recent phenomenon, that we just have like a mom and a dad that take care of the baby by themselves, and then like the dad goes back to work after a couple days. Like usually you are surrounded by family or surrounded by a community that helped you raise this baby. So if it feels hard to do on your own, it's because it is, and like you kind of weren't designed to do it all by yourself. And if you feel like it's totally draining and exhausting, it is. You're supposed to have somebody that can like take the baby for you while you go take a shower or eat or rest or whatever. They're just realities of modern life now. Like our families don't live very close by. I don't know if we're gonna have a whole lot of family help, at least not like constant family help. Like people might drop in and out if they can. We don't have a whole lot of friends close by. Even like all my closest friends live really far away. So it is going to be something we kind of do on our own, but at least we know like if people offer to help, let them help. If they want to bring us food or hold the baby for a little bit so that I can go get something done, like let them help. Well, I'll probably look back at this video in 6 months or so and be like, I had no idea what I was talking about at all. Look at me and how naive I was and how I thought this was going to be one way and it's totally different. But this is just, you know, now what I think that I know after reading a couple books. So I will link those books below if you're interested in reading them. I'll just like find them on Amazon or something like that. Let me know if there were any other like life-changing baby books that you read that you're like, oh, you need to read this one. Or, you know, if you just have life tips that you just learned by experience, which I think is probably a lot better than anything you can learn in a book. But, you know, I just wanted to have like a few ideas in my mind and a few strategies and things that would just get me through the first couple weeks and couple months so that I'm not just doing it completely blindly. Anyway, thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I hope that this was at least a little bit helpful for you, or maybe just hilarious because you're like, I've done this 4 times and you don't know anything. I will see you in my next video. Have a great day.